What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite business podcast, the MVP Show with your host. Yeah, it's me, Jesse Wolfe. How are you? I hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday, and I'm excited to be back on air. So, wow, last week was insane, and we're going to talk about last week and this trend. Okay, if you saw the title of this podcast, this trend that is exploding, and I could not be more happy as an entrepreneur to see this happening. So last week was really cool for several reasons. One of the big ones is my girlfriend launched her own business called Tin, okay, ready, and Twine Bakehouse. And it is a peach cobbler, delicious delivery business based here in Orlando, Florida. Could not be more proud of her. It has been awesome to see this thing just take off, via social media, and the response that she has received has been overwhelming. So when she launched this last week, a lot of just great responses and reactions from, friends and family and strangers alike, that saw her social media posts about this product. What is crazy is, okay, the impact Rona has had, right? Rona, on the world, right? So there was a period of time where we literally could not go anywhere. We were shut down. The world came to a standstill, and a lot of people were either forced out of work, into furlough, or forced to work from home. And what's crazy is no matter what category you fell in, right, in that time, I almost said opportunity, right? So, I mean, that's how crazy I can think sometimes, how optimistic I tend to be. During that opportunity, you fell into one of those three buckets. I mean, it's very rare that you were still going into work unless you were, one of our brave medical people, police, fire, military, or, the people that kept food on our table from the grocery stores. If you still work during the pandemic, first and foremost, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate that, and we desperately needed you. So, you are the real heroes of 2020. And for the rest of the people that ended up furloughed or, fired, unfortunately, or forced to work from home, what a new world we were living in. And what's crazy, and we talked about this in a previous podcast, is just how the world has responded. The United States especially has responded to working from home. We're seeing a lot of companies now that, have embraced it. And I'll be curious. I'm going to take a bold stab at this right now and say that going forward, working from home will be bigger than ever. Zoom will continue to grow massively. Other platforms will innovate in that space to make working from home and remotely even better. And furthermore, I think you're going to start seeing, and you're already seeing it. I mean, this is just something I'm regurgitating from something I read. You're going to start seeing a lot of these big cities, i.e. Silicon Valley, New York, a lot of, California in general, starting to have an exodus into smaller towns and cities across the country that are more affordable and maybe a better, quality of life for that reason because of the ability to work from home. So while, yes, it's tragic and our economy is scarier than a roller coaster at Disney World, there's a lot of opportunity here. And again, I have personally witnessed many companies starting up out of the pandemic. And what is insane is I've called my grandma and I asked my grandma, I said, have you ever seen anything like this? Because obviously I'm 33 and, my grandfather turns 90 this coming week. And I said, has grandpa ever, seen anything like this? Obviously being through, several of the wars, growing up and, the bomb scares and, all of it. Right. And she said, no, she said she's never seen anything like the pandemic, which is a little alarming. Let's be honest. But, we started talking about, the trends that are happening during the pandemic. And one of them being these home delivery services. And I'm not talking about Shipt. I mean, now Shipt is cool. And we started talking about, Instacart and Shipt and how you can have groceries delivered to your door. And she said it reminded her of when she was a kid and, you would get, some of your groceries, your main staples delivered right to your house, like milk. So then I started telling her about my girlfriend Christine's business. And, she was in love with the idea of peach cobbler, as is most people, right? Because it's delicious. And having hot, fresh peach cobbler delivered to your door, and what her thoughts were around, that opportunity. And then I began to tell her about how there are other people in Orlando, like my friend Megan and Brandon, who own Chubby Cheek Cookie Co. in Winter Garden, Florida, how they're delivering cookies straight to people's doors. I have a friend named Jeff, as I spoke about previously in a podcast. He delivers bagels right to your door, and so on and so forth. And, now let's add another proud feather to my cap. My parents are actually entrepreneurs as well. They own a commercial cleaning company in Atlanta, Georgia. And, obviously that's where I get a little bit of my my love, my passion is watching them run businesses as I grew up. But now, okay, I'm the oldest of 6, okay. My 13-year-old sister sends me a text message Friday saying she's going to start her business now. She has the summer off, and she's had time off because of, the whole pandemic, being out of school, I think since, I want to say spring break. So she has not been back to school since spring break. She's had to do school, but again, remotely from home. And what's crazy is it gives us so much more time to focus on things because we're not traveling back and forth. We're in the house all day. You're way more productive. You get your stuff done, and then, you're eating lunch in your living room, right? So she took the opportunity, unlike a lot of kids, which is just crazy to me, to start her own business. So my sister sent me a picture Friday of her starting her bucket hat company, which is crazy. She's 13 years old. She went out to the store. She had some money saved up, and she bought a sewing machine. And then she used YouTube, okay, to teach herself how to sew. And again, I talk about minimal viable products constantly. It's literally the name of the show, okay? Minimal viable products. So how is this not like the most fitting thing on earth, okay? Everybody thinks, they've got to have these huge amounts of cash reserves for funding to get businesses off the ground. Everybody thinks they got to have a ton of expertise or they got to find manufacturers. You got to start, right? You got to see if anybody even cares about your product. You got to see if there's even a market for your product. And the most successful restaurants that I have personally witnessed being built, one of them here in town is called Badass. It's called Badass Sandwiches. My friend John runs it and super successful. In fact, he just opened his second location. And why do I believe it was so successful? Because John didn't just run out, raise a bunch of money, find a bunch of money, whatever, and open a brick and mortar restaurant. No. Instead, John started in a food truck. Okay. And in fact, a trailer. It was a pool behind trailer built out like a food truck. And he would take this to all kinds of food truck events for a couple of years. And he built this ridiculous following. And he tweaked the recipes. And we're going to have John on the show. I love John. He's a very incredible food entrepreneur, especially a restaurateur. And I think the way he did it was absolutely perfect. So John opened his first restaurant, and guess what happened? It was an instant success, okay? All of his fans that would follow him around from food truck to food truck pop-up became his customers. And then they quickly spread the word. And in fact, John just opened his second restaurant here in Orlando. So there are very strategic ways to launch a business. And I go back to my own girlfriend, my friends Megan and Brandon with their cookie company, Jeff with his bagel company, my sister with her bucket hat company. They're all living the proof. Not one single person, right, out of that group I just mentioned spent more than probably $500 to get their business off the ground. And they're each in their own right successful. They're each in their own right growing tremendously. And they're proving that the city of Orlando wants products like this. Jeff's Bagels are, you can barely get them when he opens up his ordering window. They sell out almost in minutes, right? Megan is on several deliveries every single week. And, she's constantly tweaking and innovating her product as well. In fact, she sent me a picture last night of a new product she is planning to launch, which I am beside myself of because, As most of you know, I run the Wolfpack, and I'm on a pretty intense fitness journey myself. So being surrounded by all these delicious food products, man, is it tough. But we will survive, and life's all about balance, and I will still hit my goals while being able to support my friends in their business. So obviously, as you guys know, food is a passion of mine. And, it is just so exciting to see all these food companies launch here locally in Orlando, especially because to me, it is something I love to help cultivate. I love to leave my mark, whatever I can, on the city of Orlando and, give back, because it was so incredible for me to launch, my hummus company, obviously. So why am I going on a bender about this? Because we're in a unique time. 2020 is a crazy year, as most of us would agree to. And we're going through so many new things. So many new things have happened to us that we would never have expected, right? Like the whole pandemic was something we only saw in movies we never thought was real. Hey, I mean, it's pretty real. And we're trying to adjust. We're trying to figure out life and what that means and learn from our mistakes and things we should have been prepared for, et cetera, et cetera. What a lot of people are noticing, okay, is the uncertainty of working for other people. And that's why you're suddenly seeing a surge in consumer switching from a regular, corporate job to starting something of their own. And, I've seen, aside from food, I've seen a ton of local mask companies start up, catering to the, need for masks and wanting to look cool instead of just wearing a regular paper one. You've seen a lot of distilleries switch to making hand sanitizer and all kinds of stuff. So a lot of people are pivoting to, keep their businesses afloat or to pivot to make them grow. And it's really exciting, just to watch the pure entrepreneurship, coming through right now. And it's crazy because they say history repeats itself. And it does in a lot of ways that we can go on benders about. But the one I want to focus on is how, like fashion trends, right? Bell bottoms are coming back in style from the 70s. Like, how crazy is that? And fashion trends tend to circle back and circle back and circle back, and they get modified, right? But here we are, like, let's go back to my conversation with my grandma. Here we are in 2020, okay? In essence, with the popularity of the milkman concept coming back. So in the 40s and 50s, you had milk delivered to your front door. They literally were on a daily or, bi-daily rotation to where you would get a glass jug of milk, a glass bottle rather, delivered to you in a milk crate, dropped off on your door. And you would leave the empties out the night before, so the milkman would just simply swap you. That's how milk was delivered. And it was local. And it was sourced local. Milk was not delivered, thousands of miles away like it is sometimes today to your grocery store. So food right now is kind of going back to local, right? This small town. So instead of going to Publix and buying, Pepperidge Farm bagels, I buy bagels from Jeff's Bagel Run, and he delivers them to my front door in a brown bag, stapled closed, and I order them once a week if I want, and they show up if I want bagels. What a cool time we're living in. So just like history repeats itself, it seems like we're making this switch back to local, closer to home better, closer to the kitchen better. Obviously Jeff's Bagels have no preservatives or artificial, nothing, right? They're just good, clean, fresh made bagels, with convenience. And that is really cool. It is really unique. Just like my girlfriend, she's out delivering Cobbler now, peach cobbler and other types of cobblers. Megan's delivering fresh cookies. What a wild time. So what does that mean for you? Everybody out there that wants to start a business, in my personal opinion, now could not be a greater time on earth in the history of earth to start a business than right now. Okay. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't believe it. Attention is more available right now via social media than in the history of the world. You need attention to sell products. You need attention to test products. You need attention to launch business. And attention right now is easier than ever with platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. I mean, we can go on and on. Pinterest, you name it. So what are you waiting for, right? You know, the excuse has always been, oh, I don't have time. You have time. Your 9 to 5, that's usually a grind, right? And half of that grind is coming from your commute. You know, we're sitting in cars hour, 2, 3 hours a day driving to work. You know, you're going to lunch with friends, you know, so you're busy at lunch, you know, and you can't get anything accomplished there. Then you have to get up early and get ready for work. And then you have to come home from work and unwind and make dinner. We're saving at least, I mean, come on, be honest with me. We're saving 2 to 3 hours every day, right? Working from home. So if you're still able to work from home or you're still working from home, what is your excuse? Use that 1 hour, that 2 hour extra you'd have commuting and put it towards a new passion project, right? Put it towards the goal of launching your business. You know, there's these wonderful things behind me called computers. I talk about this all the time. You have a computer in your hand every single day called a cell phone. What are you waiting for? There's no excuse. If you don't know where to start, use Google. It is this incredible website where you ask it a question and it'll show you an answer. YouTube, you don't know how to do something, as my 13-year-old sister proved. She's not a seamstress. She was not a seamstress. Now she might be, okay? Because she taught herself how to sew via YouTube. For free, by the way. Completely free. She went and bought a sewing machine from Michael's for under $100, okay? My 13-year-old sister launched a business. And again, I was already super proud of this girl, but I am just beside myself how proud I am of her. You know, a lot of my friends, all 3 of my friends own food companies. They're not professional bakers. They did not go to school for pastry chef or bakery or any of that, right? They all have college degrees in, like, you know, hospitality or management or you know, I mean, so there's no excuse. You have the time. The time is now. We have technology. We have the ability to get attention of thousands of people so easy. Imagine trying to start a business in the 80s, pre-internet. What a challenge that had to be. You know, so the whole concept of MVP, minimal viable product, I watched my girlfriend do it in her own kitchen, right? She literally spent couple months, you know, over the quarantine, perfecting this recipe, learning how to make Cobbler, the whole 9 yards, researching Cobbler, everything on Google. And then she got in the kitchen, and for under $100, she perfected a delicious, just mouth-watering, just super over-the-top peach cobbler. And now she's selling them for a profit, as all businesses, in my opinion, should. So how crazy is that? There are no excuses. So I want you guys to stop. I don't care where you're listening to this at. If you're in the Orlando area, you got to check out the following. You got to check out, obviously biased to this one, Tin and Twine Bakehouse. You got to check out Chubby Cheek Cookie Co. You got to check out Jeff's Bagel Runs. You got to check out Fat Ash Cookies. That's another great one I've seen pop up recently. And you gotta support local. You gotta see what's going on in your town. I challenge you, whatever city you live in, get on Instagram, hashtag your city, like hashtag Orlando, see what pops up, and start looking at the businesses in your town that are new because of the recent shuffling, if you will, of society. It is incredible. And I personally challenge each and every one of you to sit back and look at your newfound free time. If you're still working from home or working different hours, what did you used to give up, i.e. your drive, your commute, getting ready for work, all that stuff, and what do you now have available? So what are you doing with that extra time now? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. And how can you be using that time to do something towards your passion project? Because if you're listening to the MVP show, there's a good chance you probably want to start a business. So, and I'm here to push you off that ledge, baby. I'm here to push you and then help you build those wings on the way down. So continue to listen to the MVP podcast. I, Jesse Wolfe, your host, will greatly appreciate it. If you're following us on YouTube, just go ahead and click that little subscribe button down there if you haven't already, and smash that like button for me because the algorithm gives me a high five every time you do that. And again, we will have these up on podcast platforms of all variants very soon. So stay with us there. I love you guys very much. And I want you to ask yourself those questions. And I want to see the answers. Comment below. How much new free time have you gained? And we will see you next week on another episode of the MVP Show. For now, I'll see you. Bye.